You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off!
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility.
We have a fault. Get to the chopper! Hanley! To the flesh wound.
I am the father.
Do you see anything?
From a planet 50 million miles beyond the stars came a strange message. Lend us your Rodan and Godzilla to fight our Monster Zero. Earth answered, and the most dreaded creatures ever to walk our planet are lifted into outer space. The stage is set for the mightiest battle ever seen by the universe in Monster Zero.
And welcome back to another episode of the Monster Movie Stompdown. This is episode 11, and we are back and roll with another Godzilla film, which is perfect for this month because we obviously have Godzilla Return to the Big Screen with King of the Monsters on May 31st, which, yeah, I was excited and loved Endgame, but this is the movie of the year for me right here. We went to, or actually before we get started, obviously Sludge here, and I've got my co-hosts.
This is Mark.
And all the way from Texas.
It's Ruben in balmy Corpus Christi.
Sweet. He's probably having better weather than we are down there.
Yep, it's no longer comfortable.
Nice hot weather.
Maybe he's not.
Maybe he's not.
It is pretty nice outside.
But so we've got man, it was cool because we did Geeter last month, and of course we had Sarge with us, or not last month, the month before last. Yes. So it was great to have Sarge from the protest with us, and I was kind of hoping we'd be able to do that this month because of Godzilla King of the Monsters, but it just played out we weren't. But it's okay because in this one we've got Godzilla versus Monster Zero, or just Monster Zero, or Invasion of the Astro Monster, or Great Monster War. You pick your name because it's got all of those titles. It's a bit insane. But this film we're talking about this month has Godzilla, Ghidorah, and Rodan all fighting together. So perfect for what we're fixing to see. Before we get started, how excited are you guys about King of Monsters?
I am pumped. Can't wait.
Ruben?
Oh, you know I'm ready for it. Matter of fact, I quit watching any trailers and everything just so I won't get, I didn't want to get burned out on all these trailers beforehand, so I quit watching them. I quit watching anything like that.
Oh man, I can't do that. I can't.
I just said, and it's funny. RJ, my son, he won't even watch the trailers. He doesn't want to watch anything. He won't. I told him about he didn't want to watch it.
Really, that's how.
He doesn't want to watch it.
Pete Quint,
yeah.
he's a friend of mine who he listens to our show, and he's got his own show. It's a great show. It's fun, a very fun show. He's not seen the first trailer, anything. Like he's wanting to go into this one totally cold turkey, totally surprised by it all.
Yeah.
So I'll go to put something out on Facebook, and sometimes Pete will message me like, "Hey, dude, spoiler alert!" Okay, I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right. My bad, Pete. My bad."
That's right.
So
yeah, I sent RJ a message. He goes, "No, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it. I want to go in, kind of like Peter, just cold turkey." And I'm like, "Well, all right, that'll work." I said, "But these trailers get you fired up for it. They get you ready for it."
Oh, it does.
I'm pretty excited. The only thing that ruined it is he's staying an extra 3 weeks in San Antonio he's taking a what's called a May master class. He's going to take an extra one. So he actually gets done the day the movie comes out. So my plan, of course, was for us to go watch it together, but obviously that's not going to happen now because he's going to have to go see it on his own. And I'm not going to wait for him.
It's like, I love you, son, but not
I love you, son, but sorry.
Not going to happen. I mean, I'll be there. I mean, I've already told my wife, I was like, look, Thursday night, I'm going to be at the theaters for the premiere. I'll be there Friday, going Saturday.
I'm really thinking of taking that Friday off so I can go, just go Thursday and soak it all in and not worry about having to go to work the next day.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. I'm pretty excited about it.
I was going to take May 31st off, but by the time I realized, I'm like, man, I need to take it off because not only is King of the Monsters coming out, which is going to be the greatest film, not the highest money making because Avengers destroyed everything. But I think it's going to be the best movie of the year, and my favorite movie of the year. But the same day, DC releases Swamp Thing on their DC universe. And I'll binge watch all 10 episodes quick of that. So I was like, I just need to take that whole day off, But
there you go.
by the time I went to go check to see if I could take the day off, they didn't have any availability. And part of me is like, man, I may just take a point hit from work and just say, forget it. I ain't coming in today. It's too important.
Yeah, as the wife's in the background shaking her head.
Like, no.
Not happening.
But I can dream. So, all right, well, let's jump into this. So, obviously, we're fixing to talk about Invasion of the Astro Monster, or as most commonly known here in America, Godzilla versus Monster Zero. Of course, now when it first came out in America, it was in 1970. So, like 5 years almost after it was released in Japan. It was just originally titled Monster Zero. Henry Saperstein, I think I pronounced his name right. Him and his company, UPA, Universal Pictures of America, had bought the rights to it and released it over here. And they released it originally as just Monster Zero. And if I'm not mistaken, Ruben, you can correct me because I know this is your favorite film. It didn't get the name Godzilla versus Monster Zero until the first official video release in America.
Right.
And then
that is correct.
Okay, so that's what I thought. So then after that, when they started running on TV the Saturday afternoons, they just kept the title moniker Godzilla versus Monster Zero for this one. So, but we're going to review this movie. But after that, we've got a little bit extra special on this episode because obviously we're pumped and ready for Godzilla King of the Monsters. We decided for this episode, we're also going to give at the end our top 5 favorite Godzilla films. So we're going to go through that. So let's go ahead and get the movie started, which is great that we're doing this one because this is Ruben's favorite. And I know he's been ready for this one. Of all Godzilla films, right, Ruben? This is it, number 1 for you.
Yeah, this one is number 1. Disclaimer: I'm not saying it's the best Godzilla, but it's my favorite. It's my go-to. It's the one that when I feel like watching a Godzilla movie and I can't decide, this is the one that goes in. It's another one of those nostalgia things with this one. This one would run quite a bit on Saturday afternoon, or Friday nights on, when I was a kid. So. This one ran more than just about any other one.
Oh yeah, well even when I was a kid, when TNT did Monster Vision, I mean this was probably the most viewed or most played one on TNT and Sci-Fi Channel. Sci-Fi Channel did their Godzilla movies on Saturdays for a while, and this was almost always on. And I think for good reason. I mean, it is. I really think it's one of the better films of the entire Showa series. I mean, it's really good. A stellar cast, stellar direction, great storyline, and we'll jump into it. So let's give a quick synopsis of the film. So obviously we just finished Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Ghidorah, he went back into space. On this movie, we have made it and found a planet beyond Jupiter called Planet X, and we are going to explore it. And the 2 main actors is Fuji and Glenn. Now, of course, Fuji in this movie is played again by Akira Takarada, who is returning from multiple roles in the Godzilla film. One of the best actors Toho had. Of course, he played Ogata in the original, but then we get introduced to, well, not introduced in this film, but it's his first Godzilla film, and his only, actually, now think about it, but Nick Adams plays Glenn in this movie. Now, Nick Adams was an American living in Japan as an actor. He was also in War of the Gargantuas, did a phenomenal job in that movie. But he plays Glenn in this one, and there's a great cast. This is the movie that introduced us to Kumi Mizuno. She plays Miss Namikawa in this film. She's actually, come to find out, a person from Planet X. She's been in multiple Godzilla films, Matengo. She's very popular at the time in the Japanese tokusatsu films. Then you've got a lot of other people, that we've seen before and other ones and that come back. Great actors. Yoshibumi Tajimi plays the general in this one. Dr. Sakurai, Jun Tazaki, he's a familiar face. So a really good cast in this one. But so we find Planet X and we go to Fuji and Glenn, our 2 main actors. They go out to explore it, find a whole race of beings out there, and they tell them that they are under attack by a monster Zero, which ends up being King Ghidorah, and that they need Earth's assistance by bringing Rodan and Godzilla to Planet X to stop King Ghidorah so that they don't have to live underground anymore. They also state that gold is in abundance on this planet, but water, not so much. Well, so we agree, and we let them come to Earth and find out they're actually already there. They take Godzilla and Ghidorah to Planet X, or sorry, Godzilla and Rodan to Planet X to fight off Ghidorah in one of the greatest battles, short battles. I mean, the first battle was awesome. Fight him off, but then we've come to find out as we return that there's more at foot, and the aliens from Planet X are actually wanting to take over Earth. They needed Godzilla and Rodan so that they had control of all three monsters, come to Earth, take over the planet, and it's up to our main characters and cast to find a way to stop the aliens, and which they do. They stop the mind control, and then we get a great fight between Godzilla, Rodan, and Ghidorah at the end. So this is a great movie. I will state, I think, before we start getting into, what our favorites are and not favorites are, is this was the movie. I know that Ghidorah had, the three-headed monster had the alien background story because she was from Venus, but this was really the first Godzilla film where you got that staple of aliens trying to take over the world, because it happens multiple times in the Showa, then happened again in Godzilla Final Wars. But this was the first one, and I still think was the best one at this point. So, but the movie came out in 1965 in Japan, 1970 here. It had a 132 million yen budget, so I mean that's like 1.3 million or whatever it was. Ended up doing a little over almost 3 million in the box office there, so it was a big success for them. Great movie. Let's go through it, man. Let's talk about what we liked and what we didn't like. And since it's Ruben's favorite, it's no better way to start this and let Ruben take control here. It's your favorite, man.
Right.
You go first.
All right. Well, what I liked about it, basically, I like everything about it. I like the story. I like that it's the first Godzilla movie that incorporates aliens type of deal. Of course, like you said just a minute ago, Ghidorah, of course, came from outer space, but there was no backstory to that. You knew nothing. And in this one, you actually have more of a sci-fi feel to it. I love the story. I love the designs that they use, the special effects, UFOs especially. When I was a kid, I just loved that design of the UFOs, the actual spacecrafts. They were so 50s UFO mania, when they created those. So I liked it. It had an excellent story. I thought that the special effects were pretty good. I mean, they were better in the past, but they were pretty good. And of course, King Ghidorah or Ghidorah or whatever you want to name him. That's my favorite nemesis for Godzilla. So the fact that he's in it, that's enough for me to really enjoy it. And all around, even as an adult, like I said, when I was a kid, it was my favorite, and as an adult, it's still one of my favorites. It is my favorite. If you'll find out my rankings. It's not going to be a surprise. That's number one. That's going to be my number one on there. So there's nothing. And also, I like the pace of the movie. It moves at a pretty good pace where there's not too many lulls going on, and the story kind of sucks you in where you want to know what's going on. As far as what's going on with the aliens. Of course, anybody would figure out, there's something else going on here. So I like that. I like that they used the mystery. They kind of used it was kind of a spy movie type thing, maybe a little bit to describe it. I can't think of anything else to describe it, but there's really not much I didn't like about the movie. The only thing I didn't care for in the movie, which doesn't really bother me that much, is they use some stock footage.
That was going to be something I was going to bring up.
Yeah, the stock footage is actually pretty good. I mean, it didn't take away enough for me to be discouraged about it. And plus, the special effects in the stock footage are actually a little bit better than some of the effects they did in the actual movie. So it was not a big minus for me, but it is stock footage, so I would consider that a minus.
Yeah,
That's basically it.
This was the first Godzilla film that introduced stock footage, and I think and we'll talk about that real quick. And sorry, Ruben, is
That's all right.
the scenes that were actually stock footage in this, Mark, if you didn't notice it. I don't know how you're a Tokusatsu fan if you didn't notice in the first place, but it's all from Rodan. And when they're fighting the city, you'll see the scenes of like Rodan falling on the building. The stock footage that was used in this movie came from the 56 Rodan film. And and it is really good. Like Ruben was stating, I mean, it's thankfully, Rodan had a great budget and the graphics were great and the special effects were great. And them all being daytime scenes matched up really well. The only time you really, it does stick out in this one, if you're not paying attention, is the Rodan suit. Because the original suit was a little more red in tint and, built differently than this one, which was much more brown. The suit was really the only thing that stuck out as far as the stock footage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it wasn't much.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. So, I mean.
Right. Yeah. If you're not looking for it or go, hey, that looked like, Rodan from, 56, you really don't. I mean, and it wasn't bad. And I don't think it was overused. Unfortunately, like Godzilla vs. Gigan, so we'll get to that way down the road. But I mean, that was stock footage heavy, unfortunately. But that had a lot to do with finances at the time and where the industry was. But that would be one of my only negatives too. So I mean, Ruben, do you have anything else you want to add to that one before we move on to Mark?
No, that's about all I have to say. We can go on to Mark.
So, what about you? Pros and cons.
It was a decent movie. Sorry, Ruben, about that. I enjoyed it. I liked the acting. The acting was good. The introduction to aliens was really good. And it kept me in the movie and wanting to know, well, what exactly are they up to? And then so that part of it is was really good. And the effects I thought were decent for the time. Mm-hmm. I thought they did pretty decent. I thought some of it was a little cheesy, but overall I thought the movie was good, but not great. And but it was good enough that I wasn't falling asleep. I was right in with it. Up all the way till the end. So it was very good. I'm impressed with it, but again, it was. The names were confusing. There was a lot of confusion going on. I didn't think they did a very good job at that, because at the time when it first came out, when it was Monster Zero, Godzilla versus Monster Zero.
I was about to ask what names, like you meant titles.
You don't know. I'm sorry. Yeah, and you don't know really at a kid's age. You don't know what's what. So hey, I saw this before, but it wasn't called that.
Right.
That kind of deal. So overall. Decent movie, not the greatest. So
not the greatest.
You want the bad part, the things
I
did like?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, they're comic type relief when Godzilla's fighting.
The dance.
He becomes a boxer. There at the first Ghidorah battle. He does that little dance. Thought that was really cheesy. Didn't like it. With me being a Godzilla fan, I want him to be bad all the time. Macho, and that wasn't very macho, and I particularly didn't care for that. I thought they got to try something else. The other thing I didn't like about it is not enough fighting. There was not enough action.
That was mine.
That I thought that it just needed more.
Mm-hmm.
There was more drama going on than the action, and in a Godzilla movie, it needs to flip that, I think.
Right. I'll go with it. When that dance, we'll talk about that dance before I move into my pros and cons. That was, I'm trying to remember the name of the dance itself, but that actually was a big thing in the 60s. And so they tried to incorporate that into the movie. Ruben, do you remember what that dance was called?
Hold on, give me a second.
You're making reference after the...
It's S-H-S. Man, I can spell it. I'll probably misspell it. I'll probably mispronounce it. It's Shari.
Shari dance? Yeah.
Yeah, Shari. I think it's how it's pronounced.
Yeah, it was a big pop culture thing, which is why they implemented it into the film.
I did read that they wanted to incorporate that. They wanted to bring in more of a pop culture feel, get some more kids into it,
And they actually,
and of course they did that. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Ruben.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
They did that pretty regularly, actually, through the 60s and 70s. I mean, you think of the scene in Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, where you notice after he beats the Condor, he scratches the side of his nose. That actually had to do with some famous wrestler or actor at the time would do that. I think it was a wrestler would do that whenever they were, won a match, and they would, scratch the side of their nose like that. And so they did that in the movie.
Yeah.
Somebody who because that was Jun Fukuda's first time directing a Godzilla film, and it was somebody a wrestler who had worked with Jun Fukuda before, so they kind of threw that in there as him. So they did that pretty, hugely no, but they did stuff like that. Yeah. And, but it was a little weird.
Yeah. It didn't work for me.
Yeah. I like the, victory roar, but,
1970, I was getting ready to turn 10, or I was 9 getting ready to turn 10. So, I mean,
hey, but you know what? We're still talking about that dance to today. You know what I mean?
Because I just watched it again.
I mean, that's you go online, you see different Godzilla memes. It's there.
There's gifs out there on it, and there's that dance is that, and of course the flying drop kick.
Oh yeah, from
the flying drop
from Megalon.
For Megalon.
Yeah, oh yeah. That can't be stuff that just it has. It was weird, but it's got its moments, and that's something that's always want to stick with the fans. So, but for me, that would be one of the downsides, but I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I'm like, I like the seriousness of the Godzilla films more than anything else. But this one, as far as the good things, I did like I love the story about this movie. I love the introduction of the Zillions, which, of course, we get the Zillions again in Final Wars. Of course, they changed the storyline a little bit, but I loved the introduction of that, because that's not the first time we saw this. We actually saw, kind of almost the exact same storyline in The Mysterians. And The Mysterians was a phenomenal movie, even though it had Mogera in it, and I thought that robot looked really dumb. But it was such a good fantasy space movie. It was really good. And I feel like with this one, they tried to, of course, Ishiro Honda, and all of them, Tomi Tanaka, they all worked on Mysterians, trying to incorporate that into the Godzilla universe with this film. And I think they did a really good job. But I think they, kind of like you said, there wasn't enough actual Godzilla fights in it. I have to agree, because at this time, we've had Godzilla versus Anguirus fight, then Kong versus Godzilla, then Mothra versus Godzilla, then Ghidorah, Mothra, and Rodan, and Godzilla going toe-to-toe. And in that movie, you got Godzilla and Rodan fighting through a good portion of the film. I like seeing more of the monster action. And I think they kind of really relied a lot on the storyline, which thankfully was a good enough storyline that you could. That unfortunately they didn't put enough monster action in it for me. That would be one of my cons to it. I mean, pros though, I love the suit, the Dyson Goji suit that was used in this one. It was the perfect blend between the Mosu Goji, or the one that was in Mothra versus Godzilla. They kind of altered for Ghidorah. I like the head on this one a lot. The feet were the only thing I didn't care for, but the suit itself, really loved the suit. I loved seeing Rodan have a little bit more action. I mean, one of my favorite scenes is right there at the end. I mean, when Rodan picks up Godzilla and slams him into Ghidorah, they go over that cliff. Dude, that was awesome. I'm like, that's what they meant to do in Kong versus Godzilla. It just didn't look nowhere near as cool,
right.
I did like that. I felt like what fights we did get was a lot more redefined or fine-tuned in comparison to Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. I thought it wasn't as busy because, you throw in Mothra too. I thought it was kind of got a little too much. But when it's just those three, man, it was great. I loved what fight we got. But again, like cons, not enough. The only other con would be the stock footage. Because, everything else I loved about the movie. I love the characters. I love the direction. Love the storyline. It's such a good storyline. They end up repeating it pretty much multiple times. Through the rest of the show or series, because it is really good. And I think it is one of those go-to good films that, you can watch it and go, well, I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm not going to fast forward through anything, because it's good pace, keeps you going. So I enjoyed it. I did like it. It's one of the best. I wouldn't, like Ruben's number one. I don't even think it made my top 5. But it would definitely be my top 10. For sure, because I think it's a really good film. And it's enjoyable. I think it's a very enjoyable movie. Sat down and watched it actually. When I watched it, and usually, as you guys know, when you listen to this, I usually will watch the Japanese version because I prefer the Japanese version over the English. This one I watched in English for one main reason, and that's Glenn, Nick Adams' character, because Nick Adams' character actually did his parts in English in the Japanese version, and they had a Japanese guy dub his voice. But Nick Adams is so intense. He's such a good actor. You know what I mean? Like that. I think that scene where they shoot Miss Namikawa in front of him, and he loses his mind. Man, I'm like, dude, he had me. I was like, ooh, get him. You know, I'm ready for him to just kick the far out of these dudes. He's a great actor. Yeah. He's really good. And I thought he was better in War of the Gargantuas than this one, but he was phenomenal in this one. So it was one of those rare times where I'm like, you know what? I want to watch the English dub version because I want to hear Nick Adams. Yeah. He's Glenn. Yeah, because he's good. Acting. He is. He's such a strong actor. I mean, so is Akira Takarada, and they did a good job. I mean, the dubbing's not perfect in this one. It's definitely not Mothra versus Godzilla by no means, but it wasn't bad. You know, it's not Godzilla versus Sea Monster or Godzilla versus Megalon or one of the ones that are worse, but it wasn't horrible. It was easy to sit through, especially because I knew Nick was going to talk soon. I'm like, yes, he's going to steal the show. And I do want to point out too, and I don't know how you guys feel. But the inventor, Fuji's sister's boyfriend, Terry.
Yeah, I think
right. Man, like I felt bad for him for the most part because his little invention, the sound device, which is, you watch this movie, Terry, the character, he's an inventor, and he creates this little device. It's like a little circular pad, and it's supposed to be a device that will ward off attackers for women. It's a security device for women is what he's making. And kind of like, I mean, security whistle or whatever. And it is loud and it is annoying. Oh my gosh, it's loud. And watching it when I first watched this as a kid and even still watching now, it's like, what's the point of this? Until you find out that the reason why the Zillions buy that device from him is that hurts them and is a weakness of theirs. And I kind of felt like Fuji dogs him the whole film. You know, it's like you're not good enough for my sister, and you're a loser.
Even at the very end, he's still
right? Yes. And like, so when all the crap hits the fan, and Glenn, I'll call him Glenn, Nick Adams' character, Glenn and Terry come rushing into the that laboratory, whatever they're in, where they're testing the rays out to try and break the mind control from the monsters, and Fuji's in there. He's like, oh, Glenn, you got to see this. He's like, no, wait, this device that Terry's made will kill him. He'll kill the aliens. And then Fuji's like, oh, way to go. Yeah. And that's it, man. Like,
his first reaction is, what are you doing here?
I know. I'm like, dude, I just want to I was like, I just want Terry to be like, just get in his face and be like, look, dude, I'm about to save the world. And I wasn't good enough for your sister. You better back off at this point. But he never got that moment. And I kind of wish he did. You know what I mean?
Well, his character never was that way. I mean,
no. He's so passive.
He would take it and then smile and go on.
He didn't even look insulted. He's like, whatever, Yeah. And even when he saves the day, he doesn't get, not to the very end. He goes, well, I guess you're good enough, type of deal. But even then, it wasn't. It wasn't a full fledged. It wasn't a full fledged like, wow, what you just did, type of thing.
I mean, and they're on the cliff there, and you got the one doctor, and then you got Fuji and Glenn like laughing, smacking each other's shoulders, like, "Oh, we did it." Terry's nowhere to be found. Who cares about that guy? I felt so bad for him the entire time. But any other things? Anything else you guys want to add on this one before we move on to the next section that we were doing for this show?
No. I just like I said, I knew I would be alone in
this one. Hey, look,
as far as ranking and all that, but it is what it is, man. It's just one of my favorites.
Hey, I know, because there's one on my list that most people dog, so it's okay. But well, actually, we didn't even usually before the episodes we'll get our stomp ratings together and come up with a cumulative. What we're going to rate this, and we didn't do that, so we're going to have to do that live here on the show.
We're going to have to.
Ruben, we know yours is going to be a 5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there's no question.
Ruben is standing strong.
Yeah, 5 all the way, best film ever. It is really good. I mean, it's definitely one of the better. I think because of just the introduction of again the stock footage and the lack of monster fights, a few things that I didn't like in the movie. This one I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 stomps. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. Definitely a 4.
4 out of 5. So we'll be what? 4.5 out of 5 would be the official, or 4?
Yeah.
4.5. Yeah. All right. So
4.5. I'll take that.
he's like, wait, I ain't taking 4. I'll give you guys 4.5.
Yeah.
So the official stomp rating from us guys for y'all listening is 4.5 out of 5. It's definitely a great film. It's one of the better watches of the Godzilla series. A lot of fun. I think me and Mark just get to where we nitpick this one. Yeah. Because man. But hey, listen, Ruben, though, it is a good one, man. It's not one you're going to be disappointed by any means.
Look, like my disclaimer at the beginning, I know there's better Godzilla.
Right. Let me get this out of the way.
I'm not saying that if I were to rank them as far, it's just my personal preference. And if you ask me to rank them, this is the one that I really enjoy. I mean, I enjoy all the Godzilla movies, so
they're so good.
It's tough, but this one always stuck out.
And I think this is a pinnacle film too. I mean, if you think about it, because this was the last hurrah of the Big Four. As far as
that's true.
Tomoyuki Tanaka, Ishiro Honda, Eiji Tsuburaya, and Akira Ifukube. I mean, this is the last Godzilla film they all do together. Because next is Godzilla Sea Monster, and you're bringing in Jun Fukuda. I think at that point too. No, it wasn't the next one. Because Aiji steps away soon, and Teruyushi Nakano takes over as the special effects. It may have been Godzilla Gigants when he actually did that, but it's coming up in the next few films where even Aiji steps away. But so it's the last of the Big Four, man. So and it was great. I think for the last of the Big Four, man, it was a great hurrah for them because I do think this is a better film than Ghidra. As far as overall, I like more monster action, but as far as an overall film, it's definitely better than Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster. But not Mothra versus Godzilla or the original Godzilla, but still a great film. So y'all definitely check it out. All right. So the next thing we want to do, because yes, it is Godzilla month. King of the Monsters is coming. We wanted to do something different and special for this episode of the Monster Movie Stompdown, and we wanted to give our top 5 Godzilla films. And I want to give a disclaimer. There are 32 current films, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 32, not including alternate edits like, Godzilla King of the Monsters for the 56 Raymond Burr cut or 85. Yeah. It is hard to choose 5 films out of that long of a history. So after much discussion and then talking to Mark and Ruben, we decided we're going to do a top 5 with one honorable mention movie, because we had to have at least 6 because it makes it easier for us, and one honorable mention moment. So like a moment in a Godzilla film that really sticks out and needs to be mentioned. So Ruben started off for the review of Godzilla Monster Zero, Invasion of the Astro Monster, whatever you want to call it. Mark starts off with the top 5. What's your top? Let's go 5 to 1. So number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Obviously, 54 kicked it off, so my top number 5 is going to be the original Godzilla.
Whoa, wait! Yeah. We've already started this wrong. let's retract and go somewhere else.
Now,
how does
that?
How can you? I mean, I can see, 54 maybe not being in number 1. It's because this is our favorites. We're not doing the best. We're doing our favorites.
Yes.
And I mean, 54 is not my favorite, but I mean, it is not 5. I mean, how did the world just go through your list? I can't even imagine at this
32 films.
You're right, 32 films. Okay, but I mean, we're talking the original, but okay.
And this is my 5.
Let's see if you can change our mind.
Well, I'm just telling you where I'm at. Number 4, Mothra versus Godzilla.
Oh, it's so good. So
very good movie. Love Mothra. Now, this one, you're going to yell at me, but it's okay. I mean,
don't disgrace this show.
Godzilla versus Monster Zero. I mean, if Ruben can take it, I can take it. Okay, just want to let you know right there.
I don't know if I'm gonna like this answer.
Okay, well,
all right. So we got
very first time to the movie theater, to the big screen. To see
I know
Godzilla
where you're going.
Movie.
I know where you're going.
Godzilla versus the Smog Monster comes in at number 3 because of it just takes me back. Every time I see the movie, it takes me back to the theater, takes me back in there, and I love it.
Well, I'm not going to dog you for that one because, I mean, I think for that film especially, that's a pretty monumental film because, the first Godzilla, which somehow made it to number 5 on your list, but, it was, the message was more than anything else of nuclear terror and what it is. And a lot of Godzilla films were like that, and that was really big for them. And I feel like they really lost course through the Showa series of, the message of the movie versus just a campy romp monster film. Bano, the director of that one, really pushed the environmental message in that film to a great degree because pollution was huge at that time. Of course, so I think it was great. I mean, I really, really dug it. I was surprised by that film because there's some moments in there that you don't see. And if you'd have had, because at the time, honestly, Tomoyuki Tanaka was actually sick. He didn't even make it to any of the production of the film. He was not on set once for this movie. He was in the hospital pretty much the entire time. And so the fact that he wasn't there, and then the fact that Eiji Tsuburaya had already stepped away is the only reason I guarantee you get that, to me, I think is the greatest scene of the movie, is where Hedorah, the small monster, is flying over that school. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you see the kids and the teachers, and then it splits over and they're bones. Right. And over them, I'm like, dude, like as a kid, that's terrifying, Yes. I'm like, I'm not throwing anything outside again. Like if I pollute, I'm going to turn to bone and dust. Like that was a great film. So, I could see that being,
I enjoyed it, liked it, but the memories that come with it, it never leaves.
Right.
So, number 2, Godzilla 1985.
English version with Raymond Burr, right?
English version, Raymond Burr.
All right, so I got to hear why is that number 2?
That's number 2, but one, I like the movie from start to finish, and I love Raymond Burr in it. But the movie was good, and that was your first movie together.
That was
as far as Godzilla went, and so that makes it a little bit special there too. With you growing up, and overall, that just makes it number 2.
Oh, look at that! I made it to number 2.
Number 2.
And number 1.
You didn't make it to number 2. Godzilla made it to
Godzilla made it to number 2. Okay. And number 1.
Okay. And number 1. You go through even as a kid, even as what when you look at life, animals, whatever you look at, they can't completely back in the 50s, 60s, 70s recreate what you think a monster or something would look like. In 2014, they brought out a Godzilla that is bad.
Dude,
and
nailed it with that one.
Everything you think of Godzilla being a monster, being just flat out mean, Godzilla 2014 is number 1.
Number 1. Dude, that's a tough movie. I'm not one of those ones that's like, oh, there wasn't enough Godzilla, blah, blah, blah. There was more Godzilla in that one than there was the original one, Yeah. And that design was dang near flawless because even Gareth Edwards had stated in that one, they would make a silhouette maquette of it to where you didn't even see the scales. It's just a black silhouette, and they would move it in 360 degrees, and if at any point it did not scream Godzilla, they'd change a feature. So they worked hard on that design. So I'm agreeing with you on that film. The only thing that would keep that one on that is Aaron Tyler Johnson. Ford Brody. I think the only negative of that film came from him, and it's a pretty strong negative because he was pretty much the lead the whole second half of the film, and he wasn't good enough in my opinion. That was my biggest flaw with that one. Not a bad list though. Not a pretty good list. I think it's pretty decent.
Well, thanks, man. I figured I'd get hammered on that. So.
No. Hey, the 98 one didn't make your list, so I'm okay with that. So as long as that and Godzilla's Revenge is not on your list, hey, you can do the next episode. So we're good to go. Ruben, what about you, man? Let's hear your. Oh wait, no. Before we go that, you got your honorable mention.
Honorable mention was Godzilla 1984.
The Japanese version?
Yes, coming through it, and really didn't see it until you become a big fan.
Mm-hmm.
Then I saw it, and so that's my honorable mention. Honorable moment.
Yep.
what I say to you earlier, when you can rip a monster's mouth wide open and blow
2014
a ray down your throat and end the movie like, phenomenal.
I mean, that is the most, and Ruben, I want to know if you agree with this. That is the most epic victory of any Godzilla film ever.
Yes, I agree.
He slams him. I mean, it's
yeah.
You want to stand up and just scream.
He opens that mouth King Kong style, like he did to the
dude. You know that was them going Konging on nothing. I mean, because that's what it was. I mean, that's Kong on the T-Rex.
Oh yeah.
And Godzilla's like, no, I'm gonna one up this one.
Yeah, let me show you how it's done.
Oh, man, I remember when that happened in the theaters. My gosh, when he drilled the male Muto with his tail and killed him, I was like, dude, that was epic. How are you gonna kill this other one? And then just right down the throat, I was like, oh man, brutal. So yeah, very good. Ruben, what about you, man? Let's go through your top 5, 5 to 1.
All right. With number 5, I have GMK. Godzilla Mothra King Ghidorah. I love that. I like that movie a lot. Of all the newer ones from the millennium, that's the one that kind of stood out to me. So I like that one. I like that Godzilla became more of a mystical type creature in that one. A soulless creature, kind of like what we had in '54. So I like that about that. So that's my number 5.
Oh man, you gotta add
number 4.
You gotta add the other part to that, man. I mean, well, there's 2 things you gotta add for that one being so good. I think one, you've got Shusuke Kaneko from the Gamera '90s trilogy directed this one and brought his entire crew that did the special effects for this film. To me, I think that's why this one was above par for the entire Millennium series. Yeah. And then the other one, this was the first and only time we saw Ghidorah as a good guy. And I thought that was
that is true.
Such a big difference.
That is true, yeah.
Want to throw that in there, sorry.
So that you're right. I didn't even think about I should have known that Sludge would bring out Gamera.
Oh, got to, man. We're not going.
Oh, yeah.
There's an opportunity there. Not the show of Gamera crap. No. We're talking about the 90s.
So that's my number 5. Now, number 4, I'm kind of like Mark on this one. I might get some flack, but I like this film. Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, the very first one.
Dude, you'll get no flack from me on that one, dude.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I debated with that.
That was me, yeah. That was a debate on mine too.
I wasn't sure when I put it on the list. I said, I might get some pushback on that, but I really like that film. So that's my number. I really like it. I like the introduction of Mechagodzilla on that one. It's just, there's just. It's just a good film.
It is. I'm with you, man. I mean, that introduction of Mechagodzilla may be. You're talking about in the night scene where he fights Godzilla and the skin burns off.
Yes.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
That to me was the greatest introduction of a villain since Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster when he comes out of the meteor.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
And that's exactly. Matter of fact, it didn't end up winning in my memorable moments, but that was one of my. I had a list of memorable moments, and that was on my list. Actually, I'm like, that's a memorable moment that I remember as a kid and still enjoy to see today.
Oh, it's awesome.
That's my number 4. My number 3 is Godzilla '54. So that's my number 3 on there.
Much better position than Mark's.
Yeah, I put it a little bit higher than Mark. Not too much higher, but still. And '54 is one of the best Godzilla films, of the whole franchise. But of course, you already know what my number 1 is. So I wrestled with where to put '54, and I said, it doesn't deserve to be a 4 or 5. I think it deserves at least 3. So I put it at 3.
Was that
the introduction of
I think that was a jab.
Yeah, that was a nice jab.
Yeah, Ruben,
just get me right there.
His fist just came through the phone. It was like, take this, Mark.
Yeah.
It deserves more respect. Call yourself a Godzilla fan.
Oh, Lordy.
So that's my number 3. My number 2 is Godzilla '85. I agree with Mark. It's the American version that I prefer over the Japanese version. Not that the Japanese version is bad, but that's the first one I saw. I like how they put Raymond Burr in. I wish they could have done a better job at it, but you know, it was good. I could have done without the Dr.
Oh god, yeah, that's what
like
ruined
that,
it.
You know, I could have done with it. That's what ruined it. That's kind of it was just a little too silly, but you know, that is one of the films that you know, if it wasn't for Monster Zero, it would be number one because it's just one of those. It was a reintroduction of Godzilla after a long absence. You know, and he was completely redesigned, and the design was awesome. I love the design of it. So I thought it was the original was done right. I prefer the American because that's the first one I saw. That's the first one that I saw in theaters, and I like that they reintroduced Raymond Burr into it. And so that's my number 2. And my number 1, can y'all guess?
Maybe.
And, that is my number 1. I've already explained why I liked it so much and what I liked about it. So I won't spend too much time on it. So that's my number 1. And my honorable mention. Boy, can you guys hear all that thunder? I got a thunderstorm going.
Was that thunder? Was that what it was?
Wow.
My number 1. Yeah, my number 1. It was a battle between 2 movies. And I'm going to give it to Godzilla 2014.
As an honorable mention.
Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. Those were the 2 just sold.
The Heisei one.
Yeah,
man, that's a
that
good
was
movie.
Too, so I battled over that. So it's 2014 because that was essentially yet another reintroduction of Godzilla, and it was an excellent it pretty much, I think, re-energized the franchise for Toho. Because I don't know if 2014 would have been successful. I don't know if Toho would have made Shin.
Yeah, I don't think they would have.
So I think, I don't know if they would have made Shin Godzilla if it wasn't for 2014.
Well, I mean, you look at 2014.
I felt bad then.
It did. I mean, it paved the way for Shin Godzilla. It paved the way for the anime trilogy. It's paved the way for the MonsterVerse. So yeah, it was huge. I mean, it completely. Not that I think Godzilla's ever gone away, because he'll never ever go away. But it definitely reignited the franchise big time.
Yeah. So
when 98 failed.
That was my number 1.
I felt kind of bad leaving it off of my top 5, but there was just not enough room. And when it came down to it, I thought it needed to be mentioned because originally I had Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2, which I really liked that one too. But this one deserves that spot, and for good reason, because I think it re-energized the whole franchise. And then my best moment, man, that was, tell you the truth, that was tougher than
yes,
than the top 5. So, but for my moment, I'm going to go with the end of Destroya. Once Godzilla, Godzilla dies basically, or melts down. And then you think that's it. And then you have Godzilla Jr. throw out his roar at the very end.
Revived, fully grown, yep.
And so you see his silhouette and you see him do that.
Dude.
And then they roll credits and it's the original Godzilla theme with all those throwbacks, pictures and stuff. I thought that was the best moment.
Oh, dude, it
was tough for me to pick.
I remember that scene. God, because I remember I was bent, man. I was bent watching Godzilla die. But then, when you see Junior, dude, I came unglued as a kid watching. I was like, God.
Yeah, exactly.
So good.
So that's my moment. It beat out a lot of other good moments because there's a lot of good moments in this Godzilla franchise.
Oh, so many.
But that one's the one. Yeah. So that's it. That's my list, boys.
Definitely a good list, I think.
So before you get started here,
yeah.
This is not your top 5 camera. And,
hey, look.
And this is not Sony Godzilla. So,
not that movie.
Just want to make sure we get that
garbage
out.
thing on here. Hey,
well,
look.
I just want to make sure we got that out there.
Look, let's just get it out of the way. No Gamera, but like Ruben, I pay a little bit better respect to the original, than you on this one. But number 5,
boy, he changed that. Boy, he slid right through there.
Number 5, same as Ruben, GMK. I like things about the Millennium series, but there was never a movie in the Millennium series that really kind of held the weight I mean, from Godzilla 2000 all the way to Final Wars. While Final Wars was great and was just a Godzilla acid trip remake of Destroy All Monsters, with Don Johnson thrown in the middle, none of them really held that weight like some classics did. That would stand the test of time, in my opinion, other than GMK, because one, the special effects, I think are the most superior special effects of any Godzilla film we've seen from the Japanese side up to Shin Godzilla. Just stellar. And I'm like, Ruben, I mean, Godzilla's a bad guy again. He's representing all the dead souls of, from the Pacific War. I love the fantasy take on it. I love what Shusuke Kaneko did, turning the guardian monsters into what they were, especially Ghidra. My only complaint on that movie when I watched it, though, is that Ghidra's the 10,000-year-old dragon. He wakes up 1,000 years after, he's, hibernating. So he's still young. He's almost like a child in that film. So you never actually see him fully grown as Shusuke had imagined him. So I kind of wish they'd have done that. But other than that, man, that movie was just phenomenal. I mean, just because you had the better special effects crew, like the Gamera crew. So, from the 90s that were far superior special effects than the Godzilla ones. But anyways, so number 5, GMK, definitely. I mean, that was the best of the millennium. Loved it. Number 4, Shin Godzilla. I'm surprised that I'm the only one that picked this one, man, because I thought this movie was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, harken back, it erased everything. This was the first time the Japanese even negated the original movie. It can never happen, because usually they rebooted like they did in 84 or whatever. They at least go back to the original Godzilla. This was the first time they never did that. And the special effects were amazing. The design, I think, was phenomenal. One of the best Godzilla designs, because it was just terrifying. It was just terrifying creature. I mean, when you see him fully mutated, because you see him, and what I loved about too was his evolution. Seeing him evolve through the film was, dude, it was cool. We never saw that before, and I know a lot of people harken like, oh man, there's so much political message, but that's what's important. That's the thing that I think people forget about Godzilla films, is it's about the message, really.
It started off as a political message.
Yeah,
54 was a shot at the United States and the atomic bomb, if you ask me. So
yeah, I mean, exactly that, and even going to the smog monster. It was such a big, strong message against pollution and stuff, and so I think because of what had happened recently with the nuclear power plant incident in Japan, and the political red tape they literally went through that caused more harm than good. I thought that message in this film was phenomenal, because I know a lot of people. The Godzilla fan base, man, they can be awesome and they can be the biggest babies. I'm sorry, but we argue. Yeah. We argue more than Democrats and Republicans do, I feel like, sometimes, because it gets ridiculous. So I know there's a lot that don't like Shin for that, but I loved it. I loved having that meaning again. And he truly was unstoppable. And he was unstoppable. They didn't even kill him. They froze him pretty much. But so loved it. Came in at number 4. Number 3, Mothra vs. Godzilla 64, man. That is a hard one to top. My top 3 was hard to sort through. To me, that's the only Godzilla film that is phenomenal, both versions, Japanese or English. Don't care which one you watch, because even the dub version is great. Bringing Mothra in, I thought was, Kong vs. Godzilla was great. Yeah, Godzilla vs. Anguirus was awesome. And of course, creating Anguirus, who's a big staple. But there was something about that movie, man. Story was perfect. The battles were perfect. I love that movie. It's so good. Number 2, because I got more respect than both of you guys, is Godzilla 1954. I think it's the best of the films. As far as the best Godzilla films, but as far as my favorites list, which is what we're discussing, it came in at number 2. I don't even know what to discuss on this. We know how good that original film is. We know how monumental. And the only reason it came to number 2 is because number 1 is Godzilla 1985, the original English version, because that was my first Godzilla film, man. And to me, that's been my staple. If it wasn't for that film, you introduced me to that film, Mark, I don't know that I would be the Godzilla fan that I am today. And looking back on it too, just as a side point from that, yes, I despise the Dr. Pepper stuff. For those who don't know, or I'm sure have heard me talk about my Plex server, I made an edited version of this film, taking all of that junk out, because one of the things that I think this one shined over the Japanese version, which the Japanese version's amazing too. Absolutely amazing. The doom and gloom vibe of that entire film was phenomenal. But the editing of this film to me was better because it's more Hollywood. It's faster paced. It's darker in tone, more like a horror film, and that's what made Godzilla scary. I mean, there's some of those scenes, man, even when you look at the films side by side, the hues and things, they darkened in 85 versus the 84 version, the Japanese version, because they made it scarier thanks to New World Pictures and Roger Corman and that crew. And I love horror films, and Godzilla's it took it back to me. I felt like that was watching that I felt like I could almost feel, as a kid, because of the horror tones of it, almost feel what the people in 54 felt when they watched Godzilla as a horror film. You know what I mean? So, being introduced to it from Mark, my first Godzilla film, and just the tone. I mean, that movie to me is just great. And Raymond Burr's awesome. Dude, that speech at the end, it's epic, dude.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Dude, he's phenomenal. I wish he was still alive. We'd bring him back for another film. But so that came into number one for me. Honorable mention: Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 74. Dude, that was
all right.
The only reason why it didn't make, because it was number 5 originally, but GMK is hard to top. It was torn between those two. But to me, I've always felt that Mechagodzilla is actually a far superior villain for Godzilla than King Ghidorah. I know Ghidorah's his big bad, but I'm sorry, Mechagodzilla put a bigger stomping on Godzilla than Ghidorah ever has in any film.
That is true. Mechagodzilla.
Oh, dude, freaking
absolutely.
whooped him.
That's the first time you see I can think of right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. Well, maybe he did another one, but what I remember about Mechagodzilla is Godzilla bleeding.
It was actually the second film, but but the Gigan was the first one where he bled. However,
the first one,
however,
for some reason that one,
well, the degree of bleeding in 74 was far superior. He bled in the first fight. He bled in the second fight. He bled a lot. that scene where he shoots him with his lasers when he's flying and hits him in the neck, and you just see blood spewing like a 1980s slasher film, dude. Oh man, it's so intense. So that had to be an honorable mention because, dude, it's that to me, that was his, as far as all of his villains, the 74 Mechagodzilla was the baddest, definitely. So, and then honorable moment though is going to go to the arch nemesis, man, to Ghidorah. And none of us have brought up any of the animated films. I don't know if that's good or bad, but to me, I think the most honorable moment was Ghidorah's entrance in Godzilla Planet Eater, because holy cow, that was insane. When he's coming through that dimensional portal and they're on that ship and they're like, there's no life signs. We're all dead. To me, that showed this is the power Ghidorah's always supposed to have. This celestial space demon. They called him the terror, king of terror, back in the 70s. That's what he was. So, that really showcased Ghidorah's power in a way that I've never seen. And so when you first see him showing up, coming out of those portal holes, and they're all dying and they don't even realize it yet because it hasn't even happened, dude, that was power like I had never seen in a Godzilla film. So to me, I remember watching it. I watched it. I got through that scene, paused it, rewinded it, and then did it again before I finished the film. Cause I was like, holy cow. I'm like, dude, Godzilla ain't making it out of this one. Cause I don't know how, but that was my honorable mention. I think that was a pretty intense scene right there. Yeah. But we're right on. You guys got anything else you want to add?
Not a bad 5 there.
Yeah. So,
no, not bad at all.
Still managed to get my gamer in there.
Got your gamer in.
Luckily, it's like one of us missed a film. One of the others caught it. I felt bad about leaving Shin Godzilla out, but Sludge brought it up. So
yeah. Well, dude, Smog Monster was one of the ones I wanted to put up top.
There's another one. Yeah, that's another one.
And Mark grabbed it.
And grabbed it. So all in all, with all 3 of us together. But by the way, just one other thing. The way me and Sludge actually started, I guess, introduced each other is he put his version up on one of the Godzilla fan sites.
That's right. Yep.
Facebook, and I was intrigued, and I started watching it. And I saw the first, and I had to friend him. I said, I got to friend this guy. this guy knows about Godzilla. This guy's a Godzilla fan, and so your version is I remember it. You put it up and you wanted critique on it, and
dude, there's like
way back before you. Yeah, it's been a while now.
It was downloaded like 150 times. So there's like 150 copies of that thing floating out there somewhere.
Yeah. I just remember you down like, whoa, man, this is good. And I said, who is this guy? I got a friend.
Now I did get an actual email from Toho on that. Did you guys know that?
Really?
Yeah, I did.
No.
Because I tried to put it up on YouTube originally, and even though I had severely edited the film, it still had so much of the intellectual property. Because we all know Toho is about as anal as it gets when it comes to Godzilla. They don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The whole reason why, when Marvel did their comics in the 70s, after that was, they only went through 24 issues. After issue 12, the first year, Toho came back and they're like, we want to charge Marvel twice the amount of money we were charging for the first 12. Marvel's like, no way. They had to renegotiate. And the reason why they never continued on the series, because the Godzilla series from Marvel was actually one of their better selling comic series at the time. I mean, really good. I mean, it was doing better than, the Champions and a lot of other comics, was because Toho came back and said, nope, we want more money. They're so anal about the property rights, which, I mean, hey, it makes tons of money for them and got them through the, cinematic crash in Japan, but in the 70s. But yeah, so when I tried to put that on YouTube, Toho emailed me and said, we don't think so. Not happening. I was like, all right.
Nice try, but not today.
I think it's just cool you got an email from Toho, so I'm cool with that, man.
I wanted to be like, look, man, y'all were nicer the last time I talked to him, because the last time I had any interaction with Toho was in 99. I had the second highest viewed Godzilla fan site on the internet, next to Aaron's old site, Monster Zero, before he passed away. And
I remember Monster Zero.
I was
on Monster Zero.
Oh man, that was a sad day, dude, when he passed away.
All the time. That was a good site.
I love that Sci-Fi Japan keeps the Monster Zero forum boards up. I thought it was pretty cool in honor of Aaron after Aaron passed away. So his site was number 1, mine was number 2, and then Barry's Temple of Godzilla was number 3. And so Toho in '99.
How did I miss you? Which one was yours then? Because I frequented both of those.
Mine.
Barry's Temple of Godzilla. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I remember I loved Barry's because Barry and I don't know. I don't think he still runs it, but like I would steal a lot of GIFs and sound clips from Barry's because I couldn't find it anywhere.
Really?
So mine was the Godzilla Encyclopedia. Was what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I don't know if I when you said Barry's Temple, I remembered that one. Monster Zero, of course, I remember that one.
Oh, dude, that one was huge.
Back in the day, that was back in the day, man. Like you said, 99, boy. I remember going to those sites, but
yeah, he was.
And I might have gone to yours and not even just don't remember.
Oh man, so one of the my communication with them in '99 was when they did Godzilla 2000 or '99 Millennium was coming out, that they actually gave me the template images to use for the website. That movie,
cool.
Which was pretty cool. So and they were nice then. They're like, oh yeah, here you go, and so they sent me those to promote the film because they'd sent Aaron images to use on his website for promoting 99 or Millennium for when it was coming up over here. So I was like, man, you guys were super nice then. Not so nice when YouTube comes around, but so alrighty. Well, man, another good episode. You guys got anything else?
What's coming up next? Are we going to do the new guy?
Aliens.
Are we going to Aliens, or are we going to go straight to the new movie?
Oh, we'll talk about the new movie. Yeah. There's no question about that one. So
I didn't know which.
Oh yeah, we'll have to discuss because we're going to discuss it on the main show, and then we're definitely discussing it on Monster Movie Stompdown. We got to.
Yeah, I got you.
It's the Monster Movie Stompdown. So yeah, we'll discuss it on that, and then but the next actual film is Aliens.
Aliens, yes, it is.
And we should have Jada back with us to do that one as well.
That's right. That's right. So,
all right. Well, man, thank you guys for listening. Another great Monster Movie Stompdown. This is Sludge.
It's Mark.
And Ruben.
Y'all have a good night.